channel. Okay, great. So yes, welcome everyone to our quick stop workshop on mastering the art of the interview. This is something that's so important. We're glad you're here today. I'll go ahead and introduce myself. So my name is Mallory Metz. I'm the career consultant for students in the College of Health Sciences, as well as exploratory students. And I might have been meeting with you here lately in some other different colleges. So hi, welcome. We're gonna go ahead and get started. If you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand. To use that feature, you can put it in the chat, and then also at the end, we'll have some time so I can answer any questions that you all have. Okay, so I thought that it would be helpful to kind of walk through all the stages of an interview in like preparing for the actual interview, what to do afterwards. And then we're going to review some of those frequently asked questions that I get that students ask, and also I wondered myself. So first, let's start off here with interview prep. So as all of you know, these three things can really help you feel confident and prepared for an interview. Now, I'll possibly be referencing throughout more so getting a job, but all of these things also apply for if you're going into graduate school. Okay, so the first step, you've submitted your resume and your cover letter, you've got that email back or that phone call that you have gotten an interview. So what do? How do you even prepare? So the first thing you're going to want to do is research the company. You've probably already done this if you had to do a cover letter and resume, but research them, learn more about their missions, their values, maybe even their diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, things like that that are really important to you. You're going to want to know more about. One very popular interview question is, why do you want to work here? So knowing that bit of information is going to be really helpful. Some other things to research: the job posting. This is the most important thing. Read the job posting before you go into the interview. Make sure that you're aware of what your responsibilities are going to be, what they're expecting from a candidate. Also, it can be important to look at the history of a company or even a school or a program or graduate program that you're applying to, just so you're really aware. And finally, any news, especially updates on a company, even on a school, maybe new professors, things like that. You just want to be up to date on these things. So now that you have all of your research, you're ready to go. Practice. This is the biggest thing. Practice. You can definitely make an appointment with your career consultant to do a mock interview. You can also do a mock interview with a friend, also using Big Interview, which is a resource I'm going to talk about a little bit later. Definitely practice that way. Even with your answers, writing them out, thinking through them fully, that's going to be super helpful. And then another thing, again, we'll talk about this later, practice or make a list of the questions that you're going to want to ask them. I think it is always important to ask questions. There's always things you want to know. You want to make sure that they are a good fit for you as much as you're a good fit for them. So go ahead and write those things down. Think about what's important to you, what you want to know. Okay, so now you've researched, you've practiced, and now prepare. So prepare for the day of. For your interview attire, which we'll go over in a second, go ahead and lay that out the night before. Go ahead and have a good idea of what you're going to wear, where it's located. So in the morning, when you're nervous and rushing, because inevitably always running late on the day of something big, you're prepared, ready to go. You know where everything is. Another thing, look at the directions in parking for wherever you're going if it's in person. I think that's a good thing with these virtual interviews, is not having to worry about the parking situation. But if you do have to go in person, look at those things ahead of time. If you need to ask the company any questions about what that situation is going to look like, go ahead and do that. Get some sleep. It's self-explanatory. You might be nervous, have a lot of jitters the night before, but being well rested, you're going to be able to concentrate better in the interview, have more concise, thought out answers. And pack your bag. So if you're bringing a purse or any kind of bag, maybe a Padfolio, anything you need, go ahead and do that the morning before. So you're not running around the house trying to figure out where in the world you set your keys. So those are the beginning steps on prepping for an interview. So next, we're going to address interview attire. So as the world is shifting and things are changing and we're becoming more aware, this might look a little different. So I've put some examples on here, but I just wanted to make some notes about things. I get a lot of questions about what is interview attire? Is it business? What is even business? What's business casual? So the first point is like, make sure to still be yourself and dress in something you are confident and comfortable in. There's nothing more distracting than being in an interview and not feeling comfortable in the shoes you're wearing, the bottoms you're wearing, the dress. Make sure you're still comfortable and feeling like your best self. Now, with that being said, you want to make sure that you're polished, professional, and dressed appropriately for the position that you're applying for. And I put that in there because corporate world versus maybe working in a daycare setting, it might look a little different for attire. If you have any doubts, ask a trusted friend or family member. Run that outfit by them and see what they think. I put this because even virtually, dress all the way, meaning make sure you have appropriate bottoms on. You don't want to have to suddenly get up in the middle of an interview and you're still wearing some sweatpants. Just go ahead, dress fully. And when in doubt, go more formal. If you're really not sure what to wear, err on the side of a more formal look and you should be good to go. Okay, so just quickly, here are some formats that interviews might come in. So the first one's a phone screening. So with interviews, you might notice that there are different rounds to an interview. And many times a company will do a phone screening in the beginning just for you to answer some questions. A lot of times it's with HR professionals, but could be with the department themselves, just asking you some basic questions. And then from there, asking you to do a formal interview. So as we know nowadays, a lot of interviews can be over the phone, like the full actual interview, or virtual. We're going to go ahead later on and go over some important points to know about that. Interviews can also be one-on-one, so maybe just you and the employer asking some questions. It could be a panel interview, which is you and multiple staff members asking you questions, or maybe faculty members if it's graduate school. You could even have a group interview. These are really popular if you're going into graduate school, where it's you along with other applicants all interviewing together. We're going to talk about that a little later on. And of course, with it being virtual, you can also have your on-site in-person interviews as well. Those still exist. So we're going to go over different types of interview questions as well. So this is important to know just so you can know what to expect. So the first type is your traditional interview questions. These are your basic, tell me about yourself. What are your strengths and weaknesses? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Those kinds of questions. You also are going to get maybe some hypothetical ones. So what would you do if this happened at work and you needed to manage it? Tell me how you manage a large workload, or how would you handle a conflict with a coworker? Just trying to see how you would handle situations. So next, we have our critical thinking and case studies questions. So these are things like social media engagement has been down. How would you go about increasing engagement? Describe how you solve a difficult situation. Things like that, they're going to really highlight your critical thinking skills and give the employer or graduate school an inside look into how you handle those kinds of things. Now, the one I really wanted to focus on the most and that students have a lot of trouble with, but it's so important, are those behavioral interview questions. So these are questions such as, give me an example of a mistake you made. How did you handle it? What was the outcome? Maybe it's tell me about a time when, or describing your experience. For these interview questions, and really you can use this method for the other interview questions as well if it fits, you're going to use something called the STAR technique. This is so helpful to use because it gives you an exact outline of things to include, so you're not rambling too much, but you're also providing all the information needed in a concise way. So the first step, not part of the STAR part, is just to prepare. Listen carefully to the question. Think of the event. Take a few seconds to ensure you have the best example you can. Don't rush it. It's totally okay when they ask you a question to take a second, do some head nods, take a little minute, a breather to think about what you want your answer to be. Then you're going to jump into the STAR technique. So the S in STAR stands for situation. Describe a specific event or situation that you were in. So that's the who, what, when, where, all of those things. So if you're describing your experience with handling a conflict with a coworker, first you're going to name that specific situation. Then you're going to move to T, which is task. So explain the task you had to complete, highlighting any specific challenges or constraints, deadlines, issues, things like that. So if we're talking again about conflict with a coworker, we already have described the situation, and this is the task or this is the conflict that it was. A stands for action. Describe the specific actions that you took to complete the task, and these should highlight desirable traits the interviewer is looking for. So here you're going to want to describe how you came to solve that conflict, if you came to an agreement with the person, if you had to go to a superior, things like that. And finally, result. Close with the result of your efforts. This is a great way to wrap it up. You can quantify that if possible, if it's like money or anything like that, number of people. But this is a STAR technique. It really is so helpful. Even when you're preparing and practicing your interview answers, this is a great way to do that, to really think through fully your answer to these questions and wrap it up in a nice, pretty package. Okay. Closing the interview. So we've prepared for the interview. You went through the interview, got asked all the questions, and now it's time for the end. So in closing the interview, you want to make sure to ask your questions. I've just put some example questions here, but I would really encourage you to think about questions that you really want to know about the company and then adjust the values and the things that you're looking for in a company or even in a graduate school. So maybe those are things like asking them what you're looking for in a candidate. Maybe it's asking diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. You could ask their favorite part and least favorite part of the job. And then one that I really love is just asking what a day in the office looks like, or the day in the life of a student in this program. What does that look like to give you a better idea? A good thing to also ask at the very end is just to check in and ask what the next steps are. A lot of times the interviewers will let you know that they'll contact you in 2 weeks or that they'll send this or that, but it's always great to ask just so you're informed. So also, I'm pretty sure it's self-explanatory. Thank the interviewers for their time and follow up. So follow up with a thank you email call within 24 hours, just to let them know that you really appreciate their time that they took out of their day to talk with you. Okay. Now, for a virtual interview, which these things can still apply for in person as well, but I wanted to make sure to mention this. So one, make eye contact. Look at the camera, not the screen. I know that I do the same thing, stare at ourselves in the picture whenever we're on the computer. Try to look in the camera to make that direct eye contact. Speak clearly, don't rush, and ask for a question to be repeated. Especially in interviews, it's totally normal and okay to get nervous, but a lot of us tend to speak really fast and stumble over our words in that situation, which is okay. Take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, don't rush through it, especially over Zoom, but also in person. If you didn't hear a question clearly, if the audio cut out, ask for a question to be repeated. That's totally fine. Also, be aware of your facial expressions. And really, I think this has more to do with eliminating distractions. You don't want to be in a crowded area with mom and dad over here talking, maybe clanging in the kitchen with pots and pans in the back. That's going to distract you from your interview. Make sure that you set the tone for the interview, having a nice, clean, distraction-free space. Do a test run, find a good spot to ensure good lighting. Maybe you're using Google Meet instead of Zoom and you've never used that platform before. Ask a friend to get on it with you. Run through how it's going to look, where all the controls are, especially if you have to share your screen, do a presentation, so that you're good to go. It can help with the nerves a lot as well. And we've already talked about this, wear interview attire, even if it's virtual, making sure that you're dressed completely. A lot of times too, that can help with the confidence. Okay. So I'm going to also ask you all for your own questions, but in the last 5 minutes, I wanted to go through some of my frequently asked questions that I have asked myself and that students have asked me. Again, after this, feel free to ask any questions that you have. First, the group interview. A lot of students going into graduate school ask me what this is, what they're looking for, how to best prepare for it. So like I mentioned earlier, a group interview is when you are in an interview with other applicants as well. So I would say for these, one, take a breath. A lot of times the program will tell you if that's the type of format that you're going to be interviewing in. Whenever you get into the room with other people, even if it's on Zoom, talk with them, make some friends, get more comfortable. I think that helps to calm some of the nerves. Remember to be very clear and intentional with your answers, especially in group interviews. A lot of times they'll ask a question, multiple people will answer. Make sure that you're intentional with your answers. You don't just want to be copying what the person said before you. Add something unique to those answers. Okay. That's just a few basics of a group interview. If you have any more questions, let me know. Okay, the dreaded, if you could be any animal, if you could be a color, what would you be and why? It can be really confusing answering this question because you might be asking yourself, what are they even looking for? Really, this is just a time to show your personality. There's no right or wrong answer. If you say that you're a bird and not a lion, it's not going to dock you any. Just be yourself. This is a time to show them your personality. At the end, when they ask, do you have any questions for me? I know we went over those previously, but students always ask me what they should ask. Prepare what you really want to know. Think about what you want to know from this company, what's important for you, and write them down. I think that's one of the cool tricks with it being virtual. You could have a little piece of paper on the side or something pulled up on your screen that's not too distracting, but that has some of the questions that you want to ask them. If it's in person, just review them beforehand to make sure that you know what you want to ask. Okay, also the strengths and weaknesses question that they will ask you. For those, you're going to want to go ahead and make sure that you highlight your strengths. You have so many. I'm sure you could talk for hours about your great strengths. Just pick a few to mention. You don't want your answers to be too long. And for your weaknesses, pick one weakness that is true. Don't lie about it. But also make sure that you include how you're working to address that weakness and any effort that you've made. You don't want to say, hey, this is my weakness and I have no idea what to do about it. So what do you do if you lose track of what you're talking about or if you stumble? Take a breath. If you completely lose track of what you're talking about, you can simply pause and say, oh, I'm kind of going off on a tangent here. Would you mind repeating the question so I can make sure that I answer it? It's as simple as that. I think it's so important to remember that you're human and they're human. You make mistakes, you stumble, you get nervous. It's okay. Just address it, ask them to repeat the question and move forward. The same thing if you stumble. Take a breath, repeat what you were saying. If you're feeling really nervous, one thing I like to do is even just break the ice by saying, oh, I'm really nervous and I'm stumbling around. Let me repeat my answer to that. That's always a great way. The interviewers are not going to say, oh, she stumbled, she cannot have this job. That's no problem at all. Another thing I really wanted to mention here in the last few minutes, that first question that you all know is going to happen. Tell me about yourself. Everyone asks, what do I say to that? What do they want to know? This is a great time to have your elevator pitch of yourself ready. So telling them who you are, why you're qualified for this position, and why you want this position, what made you interested in this position. Now, again, I'm sure you could talk about this for hours. Don't make it hours long. Write out what your elevator pitch is. We have some resources on our website to help you with that. And be ready. That question is coming. Be ready to share that with them. Okay. And I think someone in the chat also asked, what type of shoes are appropriate to wear? Should it always be heels? It doesn't always have to be your heels. Just make sure it's appropriate for the job you're applying to and that it is still more formal. There are some really cute flats out there, really cute sandals, and it can be heels if that's what you're comfortable in, but it's not it has to be heels. Okay. And finally, yes, here at the end, I wanted to mention Big Interview. So this is super helpful. I love this resource. I wish I had this resource when applying for positions and getting ready for interview. So if you go on our page on the top bar there, there's a Learn How To tab. Whenever you hover over it, it's going to have a list of learn how to things. One of them is interview prep. If you go ahead and click that, you're going to come to a screen that looks like this. And then the top left-hand corner is Big Interview. You can click on that, log in with your TW credentials, and it's going to bring you to the screen, such as down here, if you click on the little Learn tab at the top. So the cool thing about this is you can learn by video. So if you want to click and actually watch videos and practice that way, where they'll ask you a question, you record yourself answering it back. That's a great way to prepare, especially for virtual interviews. But also, I really love the question library. It has the top 10 questions, uncomfortable questions. You can search by your industry or if you're going into graduate school, and it'll give you a lot of the commonly asked questions, as well as an explanation of what the interviewer is looking for and an example. So I think that that's a great resource. I highly recommend checking that out. Okay. Now we're here at the end. I don't want to keep you over time, but if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute and ask or put it in the chat. I'd be happy to answer. We got another question in the chat. Should you always have a resume on hand when you apply to jobs in person? Yes, especially if you're going in person. It's good to have it on hand to hand it to them. Nowadays, everything is online with a lot of technology. Also be ready to just send that by email. If there's no questions, I just want to thank everyone for being here today and spending your Tuesday with me, your lunch hour with me. If you have any questions, this is my email address and phone number. Please reach out and we would be happy to answer. Thank you.